Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I will be sharing one fact about every tram line. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Starting with Route 1. Route 1's southern terminus is the closest tram stop to the beach, at just 40 meters, although in reality it's actually about 120 as you have to take a short detour to cross at the lights. Despite the trams calling it South Melbourne Beach, this beach is actually in Albert Park. Route 3 has the tightest curve on the tram network, around John Monash Drive and Derby Street. This makes it great for tram spotting, as any shot you take of this curve looks really cool. This whole area around Caulfield Station has quite a strangely curvy route, and riding through here on the tram is usually quite slow. One interesting thing about Route 5 is that until October 30th of this year, Route 5 ran as a shuttle from 6 p.m., only running 3 kilometers from Malvern to Dandenong Road, where it would connect with the Route 64 tram. These Route 64 trams would then be labeled as Route 64/5 to East Brighton and Malvern. This has since changed, with Route 64 operating the shuttle instead, and Route 5 operating the 5/64 service. Route 6 is interesting because at the end of the line, trams head back to the depot after each service to head into the city, instead of changing direction on the spot. In order to do this, they use a section of track along Cameron Street not normally used for passenger running, which leads to Brunswick Depot. Speaking of tram depots, Preston Depot on Route 11 is the largest one on the whole network and includes this platform, which is a fully accessible stop that is never used by passengers. Another thing here is the Preston Hump, a big tram-only bridge that passes over the train line. This is almost never used in passenger service. Next is Route 12. This route has a short branch off the main line at Mill Street that serves no purpose. Intended as a terminus, it has never actually been used by trams, ever. There are a few other cases of unused track across the network, but this is the only case where the track itself has never been used. But it still remains to this day. On Route 16, there are 2 stops called Toorak Road and 2 stops called High Street. Route 16 is the only route to have 2 of these doubled stops, and it's due to its large U shape causing it to cross back over many of the same roads. All tram termini have these small toilet blocks for use by tram drivers at the end of the line. Most of these are just sitting there on the tram platform, but some are a bit stranger. The terminus of Route 19 has this small park adjacent to it, and by heading through here, you will find the toilets. This is a very strange place, as they appear to be on someone else's property. Route 30 shares almost the entirety of its route with other tram lines, most notably the 35 City Circle, but it does have just one stop all to itself. Nicholson Street on Victoria Parade is the only part of the 30 which isn't a shared stop. The 30 is almost entirely within the free tram zone, with St. Vincent's Plaza being the only stop not in it. Route 35 is the city circle and is mostly a tourist route not usually used by regular passengers. And, as of October 30th, 2023, it now only operates in a clockwise direction. In the morning, some Route 48 trams are marked as 48D, with the destination of Kew Tram Depot. But these trams don't actually follow the main route along Bridge Road, instead going via Victoria Street, despite there being no onboard information stating that this is the case. This is quite misleading, and if you use Route 48 regularly, remember to be mindful of this service. Route 57 and 82 operate with Z-Class trams. These are the only trams that do not announce upcoming stops. This makes the 57 one of 2 routes where the next stop announcements have never been heard. It is likely that they have been programmed into other tram models, but these do not operate on the route. It is possible that other trams may run very occasionally, but it's impossible to predict where or when they will be. This right here is Melbourne's newest tram stop, only having opened in 2017. Track was shifted onto Toorak Road from Domain Road as part of works on the Metro Tunnel in 2017. This involved a closure of all of the tram stops along Domain Road and Park Street. and the construction of one new stop at Faulkner Park. With all of this talk about an airport rail link going on, I do want to take the moment to mention that Melbourne technically already has an airport rail link, with tram Route 59, just that this only goes to Essendon Airport, not our main one. Essendon Airport does have a few scheduled flights to smaller airports in southern New South Wales, as well as the islands in the Bass Strait. Essendon Airport used to be Melbourne's main airport until 1970. Route 64's East Brighton terminus is the southernmost tram terminus in the world, save for a tourist service in Christchurch, New Zealand. No other public transport tram goes further south than the 64 does right here. At the end of Route 67, the tram runs down this short stretch of curved track along a small suburban side street, coming to a stop at the only terminus in Melbourne with a curved platform. This ending section of Route 67 is pretty unique, and there's really nowhere else in Melbourne like it. There are only a few other cases of trams travelling through suburban side streets like this. Route 70 is the tram line that follows Richmond Junction, Melbourne's largest train junction, with it travelling to the west. The section includes many stops intended to serve spectators at events at the MCG and Melbourne Park. And when there's not any events on, these stops become very quiet, despite being so close to the city. One thing that isn't quiet, though, is the trains. The Route 72 terminus is interesting, because despite ending right next to Route 109, it doesn't have a connection to it. This is unlike most routes that end next to others, where there is always a track connecting it to the other part of the network. But here in Route 72's case, you have to take a long 25-kilometer detour, winding your way through the city in order to get from here to here. Route 75 is often touted as being the longest tram line in the world at 22.8 kilometers. But this isn't true, as the Coast Tram in Belgium is much longer. However, it is currently the longest urban tramline in the world, remaining within the boundaries of one city. But this is set to change in 2024, when the next extension of the Gold Coast G-Link tramline is opened. Route 78 is the only route that is, almost, entirely straight, traveling up and down Church and Chapel Streets. This means that, with no tight curves, you could theoretically run a standard gauge V-Line train in service on Route 78. Murray Street on Maribyrnong Road is the least used tram stop in all of Melbourne. In the 2021 to 2022 financial year, this tram stop, and also the one across the road, was used just 400 times. This equates to just 1.1 people using this stop per day. Of course, this only accounts for people who actually touch on. It seems like the number was higher today, as me and one other person both boarded the tram here. Route 86 has an album named after it by musical comedian Justin Hazelwood, called Songs from the 86 Tram Line. I can't play it here because I'll get copyrighted, but if you wish, you can check it out yourself. Route 96 has the longest distance between stops on the Melbourne network, at 788 meters between Albert Park and South Melbourne on the light rail section. This distance is even longer than the distance between some train stations. In fact, here's a journey between those stops in real time. And this isn't really related to this fact, but South Melbourne is my favourite tram stop. It's just so nice. And finally, we have the 109. The 109 has these boom gates akin to a level crossing across its light rail section to Port Melbourne. For some reason, these don't exist at any of the level crossings on the 96, only here. I do question the usefulness of these, and it's probably better just to have traffic lights. They are cool though. And with that, we've gone through every single tram line in Melbourne. So, if you've made it this far, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.